Hey guys, today we have Jerry Brazie here with us today. Jerry, welcome to the Coach Launch Podcast. So good to have you here today, my friend.
Stu, I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate you letting me come on and talk about whatever it is that you want to cover.
Amazing. Guys, welcome back to the Coach Launch Podcast. Today, I would like to welcome into the show for business-minded owners and entrepreneurs who are serious about growth. I'm your host, Matthew White, and today's guest is a seasoned operator and a straight-talking coach for people in this arena. Over the last 26 years, he's built, bought, and run more than a dozen companies, generating over $450 million in revenues and employing thousands of people. He's been through lawsuits, market swings, and partnerships and hard resets. He's still building. Today, he works directly with business owners and operators who carry the weight of the payroll, tough calls, and leading teams through uncertainty, helping them see the truth, strip away excuses, and make better decisions under pressure. He gives leaders unfiltered perspective and the ruthless self-assessment so that they can face reality faster, avoid the mistakes he made, and build a stronger, more resilient business. This conversation is about really what it takes to stay in the right and grow a real business and come out the other side stronger. Jerry Brazie, welcome to the Coach Launch Podcast.
Let's do it, Matthew.
Amazing stuff. So Jerry, just so we can get a little bit of perspective on who you are and what you've been doing, talk to me about some of the stuff that you've accomplished, some of the things that you've been doing and helping entrepreneurs so far in your journey.
Well, my background is one, I have 8 brothers and sisters, and I come from abject poverty. And so I'm the guy that, literally no education, none of that, living on the streets, and was able to grow up and do something positive. And so in that interim time, I've bought and sold, like you said, a dozen businesses. And really with that comes all of I have made fortunes and I have lost fortunes. And so in that context is a lot of value that I can bring relative to what other people are doing. When I was 30 years old, I started my first company at 28. When I was 30 years old, that company did $4 million the first year, $8 million the second year. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I was working at night refereeing basketball games to pay the bills while I was working on the business, 12 hours a day, keeping that thing afloat. And a guy walked into my office and he said he had seen me in a newspaper article I'd gotten written up in. And he was 65 years old, retired Fortune 500 CEO. And he said, I'm starting a group. I'm starting a peer group, what was a mastermind group back in the day. You get together once a month. Everybody has a half an hour. There's 7 to 10 guys. You need to be in that group with everything you have going on. I didn't know the guy. And I said, what are you talking about? I don't have the time. He said, you can't afford not to. And he said, wow. I said, well, how much is the thing? I think it was like $600. This is 25 years ago, $600. And I was like, are you crazy? Wow. I'm refereeing basketball games at night. And he said, you can't afford not to. And he was 100% correct. I joined that group. That group's still together. All the guys when I joined were in their 50s. I was 30. They're now in their 70s and 80s, and I'm in my 50s. The group gets together one time a year now. It was together for almost 25 years. And so last year I said, I help a lot of entrepreneurs. I reach out. I want to help wherever I can. I take what I've learned and I want to give it to people. I'm going to make a business out of it, and I'm going to put this Kronos group together and put together this group that was so important to me. And so what I'm trying to do is just educate either those on the inside looking into being an entrepreneur or entrepreneurs. And I don't care at what stage, I don't care how successful, I don't care how bad life is. You need to get in, preferably my group, but you need to go find a group. You need to find a mentor. You need to find somebody to talk to who will look at your business from the outside on a regular basis and give you an unvarnished, it can't be family, friends, community. It's got to be people that have that business's best interest at heart to give you an honest assessment on how you're doing, because it's really easy to get caught down in the hole and you can't see outside of it. So really, that's kind of where I'm driving for now.
Love it. And so tell me, what is that? For me, that's so important, right? Getting in the room, being around people that are, number one, like-minded, and number two, can move you forward in the game, right? What was that transition like?
For the first 2.5 years, I did not have much to say at all. Now, Matthew, I had the biggest company. Like I said, I did 4 and 8 million, and then I did 12 million my third year. Then I did 14 million my fourth year. I had no idea that this was how business worked, right? I didn't know that that was big or that wasn't how everybody did it. And so these guys taught me how to make money. They taught me I had leapfrogged a lot of issues that were coming based on my size. And by sitting there, I realized for 2.5 years, listening to these guys go back and forth in that wisdom of the crowds that you get in a group like that, I was like, wait. I recognize that prop. I have that sitting on my shelf right now. And they're like, well, you better get it off that shelf and move it over to this shelf or this is going to happen. And I was like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. So, it was really my ability to sit there and learn and listen and then to help my business. Ultimately, I cut my business back to $8 million because I couldn't keep my hands around it as it grew. And then I regrew it again after that. And so that sitting there for those first 2.5 years was just critical. I would not have done any of the things that I've done had I not been in that group. And that's why it's just so important for business owners, entrepreneurs, really anybody in life. But if you want to go somewhere and do something, go sit down with a group of people who are either doing the same thing you are, or better yet, have already done it, because they're going to help you avoid all of the pitfalls. If you're like me, you ignored them. Most expensive mistake I ever made, I ignored them, and man, did I pay for it. But again, it's not going to, it doesn't cure all the problems and it doesn't fix all of them, but you're trying to do something as an entrepreneur that is very hard to do. In that context, I suggest you find somebody who's already done it, who can help you along the way. It will save you and make you more money than you can imagine.
I love it. That is so powerful and so true. I want to dive into a little bit of your story. I've been looking through some of the context of what you've been doing. Take us to the journey where this all started. You had a little bit of a rough upbringing. Let's go through that and digest that a bit.
I would start by saying that, first off, I want to tell everybody that as you hear my story, I am who I am in spite of where I come from, but also because of where I come from. So I do not shy away from where I come from. I don't shy away from my background. I am who I am for a myriad of reasons, and I embrace that. And also, I am not a victim. I've never been a victim. And I climbed out of abject poverty. I was child number 7. My mother had 6 kids when she was 23 years old. She brought home an infant, a 0-year-old infant, and had a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-year-old at home, 6, 5, and under. No washing machine, right? No dishwasher. My dad was gone for weeks at a time, and my mother slept every other day for 10 years. 7 years later, I was born, and they didn't want me to be an only child, so I have a little brother and a little sister. My little brother's 22 months younger than me. Absolute abject poverty growing up in the 70s. And so my background, I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been beaten within an inch of my life more than a couple of times. And in that context, I did one thing well. And I got a job as an 11-year-old, paid taxes, 1980. I paid taxes as an 11-year-old washing dishes in a local restaurant. And at the end of the day, they let me pick whatever I wanted. Now, Matthew, to me, that's unimaginable, because I was stealing food. My little brother and I had scams from the time we were 5, 6 years old to go in and steal food just to eat. So the fact that they would give me that food, I made $3.15 an hour, and they gave me that food and let me pick whatever it was. And I got a club sandwich. I put a bunch of fries in the middle of it. It's this big old sandwich. I got no brothers trying to steal it from me because my brothers were 10 and 12 years older than I was. And I was like, oh, I get it. Work equals food. That cemented in an 11-year-old's brain. I've never not had a job since. I've never not paid taxes since. And that was really the formation of what ultimately I became.
Oh, so tell me about the journey going into business. I mean, that is so important. A lot of kids miss that, right? These days, we get fed so much rubbish information. There's media and social media, and it's just bombarding us and kids. Like I see kids on mobile phones. I'm like, what are those parents thinking? And so for me, what was it for you, like going from that mindset from an 11-year-old moving in towards business?
I got to tell a story first that I think set the stage. And this will, to your point, go against everything that modern culture tells, particularly us young men, but young people in particular. And that is that when I was 14 years old, I had $85 in the bank. I took $80 out, and I turned around and there were 4 dudes there. I'm smart. I'm a street kid. I knew better, but they got me, and they put the beating to me pretty good. They broke my nose. They broke 2 ribs. They rolled me underneath of a bus stop and left me for dead. Took at the time what I thought was everything I had. Turns out they didn't take anything because I was still alive. I wake up a couple of hours later. I got to do a couple of transfers. Both eyes are black. I'm bleeding out of my nose and down my front. My ribs still bother me to this day. And as I was walking home, a 2-bus transfer, and I'm walking home, this is in Portland, Oregon. I could take you to the spot. It's still there in the sidewalk right before the interstate freeway. There is a sidewalk square of cement that is double sized. For some reason, it's big. And as I stepped on it, and this is a true story, Matthew, on my children's eyes, there was a duplex right next to me. And as I stepped on that square, for whatever reason, a voice behind me right here, outside my head, a female voice said to me, "Everything is your fault." Now, I'm a street kid. I grew up tough. I look around. I think there's someone yelling at me inside of the duplex right through the window. I was like, what was I doing? Because maybe I'm all bloody and messed up. And then but there's no one there. And I said back to it. I said, "What are you talking? Nothing's my fault. I just got my butt kicked. I'm barely alive here." The voice came back outside of my head, that female voice, and it said, "Everything is your fault. If you don't change, you're going to be right where you are in 25 years. You're going to be right where you are when you're 50. I don't know where 50 came from. I don't know where the number came from. I don't know where any of it came from. God, my conscience, Jiminy Cricket. I don't know. But in my state, I was, beaten down. But it took about 14 years for that really to take hold when my son was born and I started my first business. But my life from that day forward, I got in trouble with the law and all other sorts of things. And I've been stabbed. And like I said, all these other things. But it always kept growing. It wasn't a hockey stick, but it kept growing. And what it kept growing was that everything is my fault. And so my whole life, all of the business I did, all the success I had, all the mistakes that I've made, I never blamed anyone for them. And this is important. When you are poor, when you come from my background, no one wants you to succeed. I don't know that they know that they're like that. I'm not saying that it's even conscious, but your friends don't, your family don't, your community don't, your teachers don't. No one wants to see you get out, because if you get out, you're stealing from them the excuse they have why they haven't done something, why they haven't done more, why they haven't tried to achieve. And so in my case, I really felt that, but that everything is my fault flipped that narrative on its head. And I took responsibility for everything from that day forward, so much so that as I started to build business and all of the sacrifice and the risk that comes with doing that, it really was much more manageable, because I wasn't pointing fingers at somebody else for, whatever issue is happening here, that on a company my size and as fast as I was growing, those were pretty significant. But really that whole just escaping the street and going to work and running businesses for other people like I was and achieving at the level that I did prior to starting my own businesses all comes back to everything is my fault.
That is so true. And taking responsibility these days is a thing that a lot of people lack in their journeys, right? Tell me, how old were you when you started your first business?
28 years old. So I was working for somebody else and I got a letter delivered to me. I had grown that business for this woman from 1 million to 5 million. And I had trained some people around the Northwest up in Portland, Oregon and Seattle, Washington. And I got an offer to start a business, to be the front man on a new business, financiers. And I was going to be the front guy. I had no idea what I was looking at. I had no idea what a pro forma was. I didn't know what a balance sheet was or a P&L. I had no idea. Second epiphany in my life, which was shut up. Wasn't quite as, voice outside my head, but it was just in my head, shut up and listen. My son had just been born. And so I think I was ready for it. That's why I said 14 years later, everything kind of coalesced at the same time. And I went and started that business. I took those people up on it and started that business at 28. It immediately failed a year later. I did 3 million that first year. They didn't have the money. They said they did. I learned a little something about this thing called cash flow. It's kind of important in a business. And ultimately they came in on my anniversary and fired me. And 17 days later, I went to all of my customers that I had taken from the one business and started it up again.
Talk to me about that. I love this. That's a powerful story. I'll dive into that a little bit. I just want to hear, you said, shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Dissect that a bit for me, because I think that's something important. Like, what does that mean to you? Shut up and listen.
So, Matthew, you got to envision a 28-year-old Jerry. So I'm at 17 years old. I'm living with hookers and heroin addicts in a $25 a week flop house in the worst part of town, still holding down a full-time job, dropped out of high school at 15 years old, been in 100 fights. And like I said, I've survived things most people can't imagine. So to say that I had a chip on my shoulder, right? I had a lot of common sense. I had a whole bunch of street smarts and a little bit of extra IQ points. And so I was atrocious. I was a terrible human being because I was pushed and I was driven myself. I was very sports oriented, right? I was very good. I'm 6'4", I'm 225 pounds. And so I was very driven and I was a horrible human being. And that shut up and listen epiphany that I had changed my life, together with the epiphany I had 14 years later that said, everything is your fault. Because what I did right then is my son had just been born, so he's about 4 months old, and I assessed my life. And what I did for a living what I did for life aside from my son was played sports, watched sports, ate while drinking and watching and arguing and talking and playing sports. I mean, that was my life with all of my boys that I had grown up with. But I figured out if I don't leave those guys behind, that's going to be my life when I'm 50. Back to my first epiphany. I'm going to still be sit here arguing sports because, it feels good and everybody can have an opinion and nobody's better than anybody. So for me, shutting up and listening meant I got rid of them within 2 months. I got rid of friends I had grown up and survived the streets with, and I went and I started searching out. First guy I found was at a basketball league, an architect. I didn't know educated people, right? I mean, it just wasn't something I ever asked about. And so then an attorney, and then a doctor, and then I'm learning to shut up and listen, and these people have so much more information. By the time I got to my group at 30, I had this thing practiced. So when I got in that group and I sat there for 2.5 years, man, I'm telling you, my man, I was practicing shutting up and listening and just soaking in everything because I saw the value at what those people knew compared to I didn't really know anything. I knew operations and I was a hot shot and I'd done all of these things, but in the reality compared to what I went on to do, I was this big.
I love this. I've actually got goosebumps listening to you talk about that because I think that is such a powerful message. Shut up and listen, right? Get rid of the people in the world that in your sphere that are holding you back, draining you, negativity, and focus your attention on people that are doing things, great things, and listen to what they have to say.
When you're a kid from the streets, the lowest kid on the the one that you can't, it's hard to bring everybody up. They'll bring you down to their level. So that kid that just doesn't get it, that's on that lowest end, he's going to pull the whole thing down. And you have to leave those people. You got to go find people that are smarter than you and then shut up and listen.
Love it. We can end the podcast now. That's it. Done. We're good.
That's right. Just cap it right there.
That's the most powerful message, right? But let's keep going because I think there's a lot more depth and wealth of knowledge here that I want to get from you. So I want to understand this. So somebody came to you and talked about getting into a group, and personally in my life, like it's been a game changer for me to be in the right room with the right people and learn. So long as they're on the same page as you and you're getting in that kind of same direction, it's been a game changer for me personally. Talk to me about that, why that's important. Like, what does that mean? Because just kind of a context of your business, and give me some context around that, like what change you're making.
I think that one of the big superpowers that I have that I try to teach to others is perspective. And so either it's a perspective from where I come from. Jerry, how do you deal with all of the stress and the risk and all of that? And I'm like, well, compared to where I come from, this is child's play. I know what failure looks like. I know what the bottom looks like. So I'm not scared of failure. And so that's number one. But when you start to bring it into context and you understand the world works, see, as entrepreneurs, we think that we're the only ones that have the problems that we have. And then we think we're the only ones that are dumb and everybody else has got it figured out, particularly back to your point, in the age of social media, 80% of which from a business perspective or a success perspective from my side is wrong. It's just not correct, right? Because we see all of the Lamborghinis and the yachts in the south of France. We don't see the 18-hour days agonizing over a payroll that's due that you don't have money for. That's the stuff that you don't see. And so where the group helped me, and I'll tell you specifically, this is not necessarily business related, but I'm sitting in the group one day and I was talking about my sons had never been in a fist fight. This was years ago. They were young. They're in their 20s now. And I was like, they hadn't been in a fist fight. And I got to teach them to fight because I had this perspective on the world, right? This is where I come from. And so much of the success that I've had came from that. And every man at the table, all educated, all had gone to college, right? All had built their careers and built these businesses from the ground up, but again, had education, had good parents. All of them looked at me like I was an idiot and said, Jerry, we've never been in a fight. See, I didn't have that perspective. And that perspective right there changed the way that I looked at the world. It changed the way that I looked at success and what it takes to find success and that anybody can get there. I got stabbed with a 10-inch screwdriver and mugging behind a bowling alley when I was 19 years old. You don't have to go through that to find success. And so that's just one example of the way that the group helped me figure out how the world works, give me a broader perspective on things so that I had more options, I had more information to make decisions going forward. And you could now change that to a real estate purchase or banking or insurance or operations or hiring or sales or whatever you want it to be. But that's probably the most pertinent example of where the group really opened my eyes and gave me a perspective on how business works, how the world works, how life works.
And so if you put that into from your opinion, what does it mean then? So if being angry or fighting isn't the thing, right? You don't have to challenge people and be like aggressive and kind of like that. What do you think then is that change of mindset that gives you that journey forward to be successful as an entrepreneur?
I'll give you a perfect example, and you hit it on the head. We're taught that sports is life. And I grew up, like I said, everything was about sports. Other than the competition, the behavior of sports in my day and in the current day is so far removed from the reality of the world that every average human being lives in, from the rules that we have to live under. What it takes to find success is not throwing a chair at a referee across the floor. It is not yelling and screaming from the stands because you know better. It is not getting in the face of the player and screaming and yelling. These television shows that build motorcycles and cars, and you see them throwing wrenches at each other's heads and the owners screaming and yelling and the camera follows them outside and the door gets slammed. That is not business. That's not the real world. I thought it was because I watched people kick dirt on an umpire playing baseball for my entire life. So I thought that's how you act. And the reality is that behavior, there is one place that you can make money behaving like that, and that is in that environment. But when you get out into the environment that we all have to live in, there's no money to be made by being emotional. Right? Decisions need to be pragmatic. They need to be made calmly. I say all the time, because I always used to have to be right. A good manager lets everybody else do what he wants them to do and let them think it's their idea. Get them to do what you want them to do and let them have the idea. And so really getting out of my own way, understanding how to work with people, figuring out the best way to get the most from people isn't intimidation. It's not being Rocky Balboa and throwing punches. That's not reality at all. The reality is calm, cool, collected. The way that I escaped the streets was that I kept my head about me. I had two different guys. I mean, nobody ever wins a fight, but in these two that I happened to win, two different guys under my boot. And the boot's coming down because, Matthew, I'm 15 years old and I'm 200 pounds at 6 foot tall, full of rage on the street. And again, inside my head, that little voice that's been with me my whole life said, that's enough. And I stopped. Now, most people in my environment go on, but something different about me said, that's it. Don't bring that foot down, walk away, and no one will hear about this again. But if you put that foot down, it's jail time, it's running from the law, it's all of those other things. And so really, that was probably the genesis of it. So by the time I got to shut up and listen, and then I got into that group, I was ready to just take on everything that they gave me, understanding that what helped me escape, I am who I am in spite of where I come from, but I'm also who I am because of where I come from. So I used the best parts and the worst parts to help me bring perspective when it was time to really start to learn things that were going to help me start to amp up the business and really start to grow.
This whole context of this, 'cause I think a lot of what you're talking about is being a good leader, right? It's being a leader that understands the dynamic of the people around them, not to be competitive, but more being in a kind of collaborative way in business, other people around you, in the way you manage your staff, the way you manage yourself. I think that's a powerful message to everybody, right? It's like, be a good leader, be a good leader. I think that's a very powerful message. Is that right?
And I should add, I'm crazy competitive. I want to win at everything I do. I always have, but I realized what winning is, and whether or not I won on a basketball court in the context of what school my children went to, what colleges they went to, what their lives and my wife's life were going to look like relative to mine as a child. Those things just didn't matter anymore. So I still played sports. I still as competitive a human being and tried as hard as I can, but I had a different perspective now about what success was.
So good. And it comes back down to shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen. Yeah, it's true.
And it's my fault, right? If we can take responsibility for our actions and where we are, like it helps to elevate the game, right? It's like, okay, I'm in this place right now because of all the decisions I made. I made the mistakes. I did these things. I'm here because of that. What can I do going forward, though? I think that's the big shift, right? It's like getting around the right people. I think that's a key message that you've got, right?
Yes. Yes. And those two things right there that you just said are superpowers. They're very hard to do. Very, very difficult to do. But if you can master that, particularly in an entrepreneurial environment, but really any success environment at home, with your kids, with your wife, whatever it is. I've been married now coming up on 30 years. The thought that a guy like me would have 3 kids, 2 in the Army, I see my daughter every day, and married for 30, coming up on 30 years, at 17 or 20 years old, it's just not possible. And so really the shut up and listen and everything is your fault, man, I'm telling you what, it's just been a magic superpower for me.
Wow. I love it. I'd like to dive into your process, if I may. You've got this amazing context of bringing people together in communities and groups. I've had a look through some of your stuff, and you've got this 10-person cohort environment. Talk to me a little bit about your process and what that means and how that's changing people's lives.
So, as I said earlier, for me, it was so important. I didn't even know what a peer group was when he walked in the door. And now, all of these years later, I'm putting my own together and running them because, back to my point, you think that you're the only one that has these issues. And it just seemed like I'm a video game player from the 80s, right? And whenever you could hyperspace in an asteroids game and, you could jump to somewhere else and avoid the rock that was coming for you, the asteroid that was coming from you, you would do that. And these things are like that. They're like cheat codes. And when I had that epiphany at 28 to shut up and listen, that meant I went out and found people that were smarter than I was. And then I've learned that smarter isn't necessarily book smarter. It's just they might be better at something than I am. So if they have more information about something that I think I'm good at, us men in particular, and me, being who I was, I know everything and you're not going to tell me anything. And I'll argue even if I have no idea what I'm talking about. And once I figured out to get out of my way, I was like, wait a minute, there is money to be made by me paying to be in this group, hearing what these people are saying and taking it and applying it. It's not every week or it's not every month. It might be 2 or 3 months. There's being held accountable is a significant part of that. So I had to come back every month and say, Jerry, did you buy that building you said you were going to buy? And I got to hold my head down and say no. And everybody will call me, what the hell is the matter with you? You said you were going to do it. So you have some accountability there. You'd already walked through it. You already got all the details. You had no excuses. And so in those two contexts, holding you accountable, but then also providing you information, the wisdom of the crowds. When you get in a room with 7 to 10 operators, whether they've been at it for a year or combined they've been at it for 100 years, you're going to hear something you don't know. And chances are it's going to make you money. And then thirdly is when I was my most successful, I was making 2012, I was making $250,000 a month in income. I was doing about $20 million a year. You couldn't touch me, man. I had it all figured out. And I bought a business and the group told me, don't buy the business. It's too complex. It's too big. You're not going to be able to swallow it. You're not going to understand it. But Matthew, man, I'm a kid from the streets, man. I'm making $250,000 a month. What are you talking about? I got a garage full of cars. I got all kinds of stuff going on. Man, were they right. The most expensive mistake I ever made cost me $6 million lost and 6 years of my life. Should have never done it. Also, in that time, looking through audits going backwards, we learned that I was costing myself 50 to 60 grand a month. I should have been making 300 grand a month, but I was making 250 because I hit that number and I was like, I'm hitting it on all cylinders. But the reality is I was leaving money on the table. You need somebody outside the business telling you how your business is going. I don't care if that's a $250,000 a year business or a $25 million a year business. You need people with experience who know what they're talking about, who have seen it before, watching that and giving you feedback. You cannot hire that kind of feedback. It's too hard to hire, particularly if you're a 7-figure entrepreneur. You need to find a mentor or a group like this that will help you. That's what it did for me. Now, I didn't avoid that problem because I thought I knew more than the crowd. Idiot me, right? But I avoided a whole bunch of other ones that I'd be sitting here talking about losing $10 million because of that group.
Wow. That's amazing. Such a powerful story. And I remember reading the book, Think and Grow Rich. where he talks about the mastermind effect, right, of having the people in the room together and how powerful that is. Is that something that kind of resonates with you, or have you read that book? Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I have Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad, obviously, for me was, another really big one. And because, again, that's kind of where I come from. And that mindset about what we think we know, that's where Shut Up and Listen comes from, really. I mean, that was me saying that back in whatever year that was, 1990. Just shut up and listen and pay attention to what's going on. There's people out there that know more than you do. So that's what those books, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it gives you perspective. Right? You think you see the world this way. People who've been there before are then able to talk about, oh, no, I see the world this way. So you can spend 30, 40 years thinking and growing rich, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and figure that out for yourself, or you can read his book and figure it out at 20 years old. That is what a peer group will do for you.
I love that so much. And I can honestly say that being around, doing exactly what you've just said, getting rid of the people that are not raising me up, and letting them go nicely, of course, like I've moved on, and hanging out with people that are not necessarily even smarter than me, but just doing these things that hold me accountable and give me growth that exponentially helps you. Like, it's the mindset of it. Like, and I can just imagine it, right? Because I'm really inspired about what you're doing. And I think this is incredible. But for me, what it's meant for me is that getting around and having these people, it's not always the thing that you learn. It's just the motivation that can give you from a day-to-day perspective, right? Sitting in your office and you've got these people, not that their voices in your head, but you know that they're watching, or that, and that drives you as well to do the right thing and to take action and not let things hold you back.
If I learned nothing from them, it held me accountable. It was worth every penny to hold me accountable, particularly in my growth rate that I was doing and what I was trying to figure out. It held me accountable in a way that I just simply would not have otherwise. It's like I said, my son was born at 28. I never thought I'd have kids. Anybody that has children, your wife is pregnant, the next second she's not, and your life changes. That son or daughter drops out. It's a whole nother world. Yeah, and for me, it blew my world up. And I was like, okay, I have to go split atoms. Right? I got to go crush the earth, because this son of mine, I had a son first, will not live the same life I had, regardless of what I have to do. And so I said, whatever that took, I'm going to go do that, whatever pressure I had to put on myself. So I was already driven to succeed. But if you don't know what it is that you're driving, if you don't know what it is to look out for, if you don't know what pitfalls are coming your way, right, then you can't avoid them, and you're going to do the opposite of what I was trying to do, which make a better life for my children. The group held me accountable. If they never taught me anything, they made sure I kept my head down and I kept looking through the windshield rather than going left and right. And when I didn't, it cost me millions of dollars.
Wow, so true. Tell me something. I'm curious about why the number 10.
Why the what?
Why 10 people in a group?
So, you want 7 to 10 at the most. It's half a day. Everybody gets a half an hour. And so I'm the chairman of the group. We go around and each person gets a half an hour and they can talk about whatever they want. It's a beautiful thing about the group too, about keeping it small, because you get to know it's not where you're going and somebody's giving you a speech and you're listening to it. Maybe you can take it, maybe you can't. This is on the ground, not 30,000 foot view. Today is Monday. In fact, I had my operations meetings on Monday following when I would have my group meeting in the morning, because I would come back with something that I could put to work right now. Some advice, some piece of something would come back from that group, either in my half an hour that somebody would feed me back, or listening to other guys go back and forth. I would take something away from that. If you start getting outside of too many, if you get to 12 or 15, now you're starting to talk about a mastermind group in today's parlance. That is, somebody's going to come in and they're going to give a speech for an hour. And then, there'll be a couple of questions. But that, to me, there's no value in that for me. I mean, there's, inspirational value and motivational value, and that's all good. And it's just not for me. The other thing that's not for me is there's other groups, other competitors of mine, and they bring in the coaches, right? And these guys are experienced. But if you haven't ever signed a check, if you haven't been responsible for the front of the check, it's like, I work out 6 days a week. And if I had a trainer, I don't have a trainer anymore, but when I had a trainer, I didn't go get the giant fat person eating pizza, right? I got the guy in shape. the guy that looks good, right? The guy's like, I want to look like that dude. What do I got to do to do that? And so in that context, you don't want to find the guy that hasn't done it. You don't want to find the guy that's read the book. You want to find the guy that's done it. I mean, I have 3 businesses right now that I'm running. Both of them are 7-figure and one is 8-figure. So, you want people, me or someone else, that's in the fight that can help you. And that's what keeping the group small. I mean, really 7 to 10, it shouldn't be any bigger than that because the message starts to get diluted. And then you're talking about a full day versus 5.5 hours. And it's just the economy of it. And then on top of that, you come back and you get a one-on-one with me for an hour post the meeting, later in the week or later in the month. So you're really held accountable because I'm going to go, okay, we talked about A, B, and C, and Mike said this, and Bob called you out on that. What have you done? Blink. You don't want to be sitting in that meeting and go, I didn't do anything. You want to have your argument against why you didn't do it, or here's the reasons why I got it implemented, or I can't do it. I can't talk to, Bill in my operations. Okay, let me talk to him. I got the experience and I'll show you how to do it. So really, it's on the ground helping you grow your business. It's not rah-rah. It's not necessarily motivational. It's not necessarily inspirational. It is all of those things, but it's the wisdom of the crowds and then holding yourself accountable. To me, again, as somebody who's done the things that I've done, and I'm an idiot. I mean, I bought a house when I was 20 years old. I read an article, buy a house. I had good credit, thank God, because I always had a job. So I paid $82,500 at 12.5% interest because this article I read said buy a house. I didn't know what a mortgage was. I didn't know what equity was. I didn't know what an interest rate was. I had no idea what any of those things are, but I knew I was supposed to go buy a house. So when you want to talk about low information or not having the skills or don't have the pedigree or don't have the background, you can get all of those things. I was fortunate enough I got invited onto this group, changed my life.
Amazing. I can see the power of it. And the biggest leverage is accountability. You're learning, you're getting knowledge, of course, but it's trying, and sometimes it's making that, like having your decisions validated. Like if you want to do something and asking a group and it's like, well, this is what I did in my past. This is how I've dealt with things, blah, blah, blah. That leverage, like it's exponential, right?
Yes.
Like you said, you can't hire support like that. Like who's going to give you that kind of information unless it's in a peer group of people? I love the value of this, the power of this. It's incredible. Do you let anybody into this?
So it's high 6-figure to 8-figure revenue businesses is what we're looking for. I have a school community that I've just started. It's brand new for people that are on the outside looking in, that are interested in business. Maybe they're doing $200,000 a year. Maybe they're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, but they're sitting in the office. I just started up the Kronos Group school community. And so that's the way I'm going to try to have conversations with those people, because I think that you need a little bit more perspective. So, high 6-figure at a minimum, 7-figure and 8-figure businesses, yearly revenue are really what we're looking for. Because again, it is not just you sitting there getting information, you're giving it back also. What have you learned? I sat for 2.5 years because I didn't have the hell I was talking about. I was winging it as I was going. But then once I started to learn, started to have things happen to me, I could start to contribute. It's really, I'll use the word intimate, right? Everyone knows everybody. You know what's happening at home. You know what's happening with the kids. You know what's happening at work, because it's helping everybody manage this game of entrepreneurship lifestyle.
It's incredible. And tell me some of the results that entrepreneurs are getting from being in these types of groups.
Well, I can give you, just the easy stats. Over the last 20 years, they've been studying this. And the reality is, for the reasons that we just talked about, that the businesses last longer. So, the average businesses dies out in 3 to 5 years, and these businesses are going on 10, 15, 20 years now. So there's a significant uptick in just the business survival. The profit is up about 30% from people who stay in these groups. So you're seeing real world results. You would be hard pressed to put me inside of any business that I won't find 3 to 5 points of margin. You just be hard pressed to do it. I'd almost wage you that amount of money that regardless, you bring me into a $10 million company, I'm going to find you 3 points of margin you're not seeing. The same is true, though, that I could bring somebody into my companies and I'll bet you they find 3 points of margin that I don't see. So in that context, if you come into a group like this and you open up, or you get somebody like me to help you with your business, and you open up and you're honest about it, right? Self-assessing, being very critical of yourself, not worrying about the good stuff, only worrying about the bad stuff, because that's where the money is to be made and the losses avoided. In that context, you can see the value right off the top. You're going to make more money for a myriad of reasons that we have just elucidated, but there are multiple examples in the world, study-wise, that show this to be true. And if you think about it, just makes sense, right? If you're in a group with people who are doing what you're doing, because being an entrepreneur is lonely. And the reality is, I could point you to people who would have never bought businesses or never bought buildings for their businesses had they not been in my group. And I'm talking, tens of millions of dollars of wealth creation. I wouldn't have bought a new business had they not been in the group, would not have expanded the way, had not saved huge money on insurance, banking. I mean, you name the issue, sales, like this works, but this doesn't work. Don't call Bob, call Tim over here. Tim's got it all figured out. We lost a bunch of money with Bob. Just all of those things that you think you're the only one out there. And the reality is everyone is dealing with the same problem, going back to what I said at the beginning.
This is really a 1%er game, right? Like if you want to be in that 1% of people that are achieving things, right? Being around people is super important. And you're right. Entrepreneurship can be super lonely. And a lot of guys, especially guys, I think they just tolerate that loneliness sometimes just to battle it out. But when you can be around other people, it's refreshing. And so my question to you is that I'm assuming that you've got these groups going, well, how do you manage the ego? Because, I mean, there's obviously entrepreneurs that are doing well, and then oftentimes ego is the thing that really can derail conversations, right? Look like.
Well, I guess I didn't answer your question as thoroughly as I should have, because that's a good question. Not everybody gets in. Not everybody is going to be a fit to a cohort. It's just not. And there are just people that it's not for them, because it really is an environment where you are learning. Even if there's nothing to learn, you're still open to it. And then you're contributing also. And if you're the guy that thinks you know everything, well, I've never met that guy, right? I mean, I've met lots of guys who think they know everything. I've never met one that actually does. And usually those are the most blinded guys. I say that the people who really need to join the group are the successful people. So if you've got a business doing $5 or $10 million and you're making money and you've been successful, and maybe you're making more money than you ever could, you need a group worse than anybody, because I promise you, you are leaving huge amounts of money on the table, number one. Number two, you are missing opportunities that you don't see. It just comes with the territory. And I can say that because I've scaled multiple businesses to 8 and 9 figures and done hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. So I can recognize that and I can see that. And I think that those are the people that sometimes can be the hardest to get. I luckily was not, as I just explained. I was able to come into that group, even though I was doing 14 million, ultimately $22 a year, and really be open to it.
Love it. So for me, I mean, when you're, and I don't know, maybe other people think this way or not, but for me, when you become successful, when you've got money coming in, money becomes a numbers game, right? It's just more numbers, really. And for me, what's really interesting and attractive about this is mindset shift, because as entrepreneurs, doesn't matter even how much money you make. Oftentimes, it's like the things that go on up inside your head are the things that are the biggest battles that you're facing, right?
Yes.
And I think that is what is super interesting to me, is that to be around other people. Like, what are you facing? Like, how do you deal with this mindset issue? How do you get over imposter syndrome? How do you deal with like procrastination? Like, and these are real big things. And there's no, like, if somebody else is experiencing those things and they have perspective, like that's huge, right?
Yeah. And you hit it on the head right there. I was on a podcast a couple of days ago, and the host thanked me for being so honest. And I was like, what are you talking about, honest? I'm just telling my story. Like I say, 80% of what you see on the internet about business and success just isn't true, because they don't show you the downside. But you said two things that are absolutely have to be talked about, and that is imposter syndrome, number one. Before I came on this podcast, I'm thinking, what in the hell's Matthew want to talk to me about? What do I have to contribute to Matthew, right? I'm a poor kid from the streets, took a 10-inch screwdriver out of his back when he was 19 years old. I'm an idiot. I got no education. What do I know? So I have to tell myself, no, Jerry, have the experience. Stay humble, though. Listen to the conversation, answer the question when it's asked, and try to contribute based on your knowledge. And so, okay, this makes sense. And then you pop up on the screen, and away I go. I'll talk as long as you want to. But that imposter syndrome is real. I embrace it. I know where it comes from. And I'm just really, I want people to hear that it is not, instantly the magic car is built, right? There's 6 months that go into it that you don't see it. When the guys would ask me, hey, man, how do I afford a car like what you're driving? I'd say, I don't answer the question with what I'm doing. I said I worked at McDonald's when I was 16 years old in a drive-through, and I used skills that I learned at McDonald's getting $3 an hour when I was 16 years old in my businesses today. So you want to know where my success comes from? It comes from paying attention when I was stocking the back room in the icy freezer at midnight on a Saturday at the McDonald's all those years ago. So I think that imposter syndrome thing, though, and understanding that that's not necessarily negative. Everybody goes through it. Knowing that everyone else is going through it can be helpful to you, and success can come from that maybe much quicker.
That's so true. And procrastination is the other thing that.
Sorry, I forgot the second point. Yes, procrastination. And that's where the group is really good. I love 25,000 foot views. I hate ground floor views relative to my business, right? So I have to be held accountable to take care of the things I have to take care of, because I want to go think fancy thoughts up at 25,000 feet. But, you can't do that, right? It's not like some Fortune 500 program. You got to get down on the ground and you got to do the work.
So true. And being around people that are like-minded helps you break through those things, right? The accountability of this is massive. For me in my business, it's like the biggest game changer has been in my life is being around good people that are thinking the same, that get you to that place faster. So I love your idea of these cohorts. Like, it's just a no-brainer, right? It's like, if you're a business entrepreneur and you want to have success, you want to move the needle, get around the right people. For me, like, entrepreneurship is a lonely place. And why wear everything all by yourself?
Yes.
Share the load. Get around people.
Every business might be different in a group. And one of the guys in the group for years and years had inherited his business, a very specific business, and he had no competition. And his life relative to all the rest of ours was very easy. And so it was hard not to judge him for that and discount his perspective. And one day I'm sitting there, and he told a story to the group that his dad had told him when his dad had started the business so many years ago, and the trials and tribulations he took in putting this building together and ultimately getting this business started, and the hoops he has to jump through. One of the most powerful stories I had ever heard. And it came from the guy that I really kind of was like, I don't know why he belongs to this group. The point being, you never know where it's going to come from. Everybody has a different perspective, but you're all entrepreneurs, and there's different ways to become an entrepreneur, but there's not different directions, right? Everybody's got to kind of go the same way. You don't have to follow the same path, but you got to go the same way. If you think that there's again, 4 hours a week, work week in the south of France on a boat with bikini girls, and your Lamborghini's waiting for you at the dock, and you're a fool for not working longer than that, like social media tells you, then you are a fool, because the reality is the business world is very, very difficult. So that's the point that I try to make. And when you get different perspectives from people, it can be helpful in the context of we're all entrepreneurs.
That's so true. Entrepreneurship is hard. And so we have to embrace that, we have to accept it, and we have to put everything together. You talked about working out and exercising 6 days a week. You still do that, right?
So really quick, I'll tell you a story. In 2020, when I was 38 years old, I've always been healthy, always been sports, but I broke my back when I was 19 years old. I had 17 procedures, and I had a 25-year opioid addiction, hundreds of milligrams a day of the most powerful opioids you can imagine, because I had so much pain in my back. And so through all of the businesses and all of those things, I've been hospitalized 61 times since 2017, as an example. I've been cardioverted for my heart 24 times, multiple times, twice in one night. So in 2021, November of 21, I found myself laying in a hospital bed, having many heart attacks, down 4 pints of blood. Inexplicably, I was on the way out, and I weighed 310 pounds. And I said, wow. No, I have unborn grandchildren. I didn't have grandparents. I'm not doing it. I'm living for my children. What the hell happened to you, Jerry? You got soft, you got fat, you got complacent. And so I started a carnivore diet January 1 of 2022. I walked a quarter mile the first day. It took me 24 minutes. I had to stop 3 times. I went cold turkey on all of my opioids. I was sick for 40 days. I lost 100 plus pounds in 8.5 months. I've put on 30 pounds of muscle from 52 to 57. So in 4 years, I put on 30 pounds of muscle. I work out lifting 6 days a week. I sauna 25 minutes every day. I do 4 miles on the road every single day, 7 days a week, 2 minutes running, 2 minutes walking, because I don't want to hurt myself at 57 years old. And I'm in the best shape of my life at 57. And I'm more aggressive, and I'm smarter, and I'm quicker. And so the health, I was successful, but had I been healthier while being successful, I would have had more success. So success is downstream of health. And that's the other thing that I want entrepreneurs to know and hear is you have to make time for your health. It is not something that you can do later because it is a huge tool towards being successful. I had a conversation yesterday with a guy starting a brand new business, 54 years old. He's 5'8", and he is 225 pounds. And he's like, what do I do first? I got this new business starting June. I was like, man, you got to lose 50 pounds. He's like, no, I got this business. I was like, I know, you got to lose 50 pounds. If you want to give yourself the best chance at that business, you got to lose 50 pounds. Start walking right now. Well, I can't run. My back said, I didn't say run. I said, go for a walk. 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, however, go for a walk. That's enough. Go walk for an hour. You don't have to run. You don't have to jog. You don't have to treadmill it. Just go for a walk. Nice, brisk walk. Keep your time, right? Don't lazy on it, but go do it and eat right. Simple. You'll lose 30 pounds, 2.5 months. Yeah, I promise you, you will. And your world will change mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. You'll be a better husband, father, business owner, friend, across the board. You'll be better in your community the healthier you are. So, and age is, again, one of these social media cultural constructs that tell us because when my dad was 57, he had half a foot in the grave, right? I'm doing more today. I just started a brand new business. I'm doing more today than I was doing at 37 years old. So health is a significantly important part of my entire story. And I'm the sickest human you'll ever meet. I have a 40% block in my left ventricle I was born with. I didn't know. It popped up when I was 38 years old. 4 years ago, I was taking 19 pills a day. 19. I take 1 now. 1. I've never been healthier.
I love it. You're preaching to the choir, my friend. I love that idea. I think business and health or being in a good physical condition is critical. People that aren't addressing fitness and health in their personal lives or in their lives, how can you compete in today's age if you're just letting yourself, because when you start putting on the weight, your mind becomes foggy, your emotions become more abrupt, you can't control yourself as well. But when you're in good shape physically, that also helps you mentally, right? And I agree with you 100%. I've kind of been on the same journey as you. Fitness, health, every day. I think it's super important. A great message, Jerry. I don't think
that people understand that, particularly, if you're 30 or 40 or 50 pounds, you're carrying another organism. I had a doctor on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she said it much more eloquently than I could. But you're carrying another thing on your body that eats from you, and it takes from you, and it takes the toll. We think about the physical toll because you lose your breath going upstairs, but there's a huge mental toll because your body is fighting that thing that is surrounding your organs, and it's making you unhealthy. So you want to get every tool you can, join a group. The Kronos group would be great. I'd love to hear from you. But also join a gym. Doesn't have to be crazy. Push weights around 2-3 times a week and go for a walk and eat right. And your life will be infinitely better. I promise.
Great message. I got goosebumps again listening to you talk, my friend. You've been super motivational, and I love this whole journey and what we've been talking about. As we're coming to the end of this podcast, tell me a little bit about how people can get hold of you, what it means to do business with you, etc. Shout out on that.
If I could say one thing before I do that, please, I want people to hear my message about, I'm coming up on $500 million probably by now in revenue. That's a lot over 25 years. Here's what I want people to know about that. Not a single dollar of that did I earn in revenue doing something I love. I didn't love anything that I did. I love the game of business. I love to compete. I love to figure out what I'm good at so that I can take that money, sell, or so something I'm good at that I can sell to people at profit, so I can take that money and go spend it on the things I'm passionate about. So this idea that you got to be passionate about what you're doing and do what you love, which is preached to us by 100 millionaires and billionaires, right, who have forgotten what it is for somebody to take their nest egg and go contribute it somewhere and risk everything to become a success, right? And if you're working more than 8 hours a day and you can't have a home life and a work life, and you can't work 18 hours a day and still have children and a relationship, all of that is a lie. Do what you love is a lie from my perspective. $450 million in revenue, not $1. Now, I'm going to take that a little bit further and say, I don't know, probably 100 millionaires. I know 1,000 business owners. I don't know one, not one, that has ever made $1 doing something they truly love. You know what I love doing, Matthew? Playing pool. I love to go play pool. I will play pool for 6-8 hours at a time. Problem is, I'm not good enough to earn a living playing pool. So my do what you love is go play pool when I can with my buddies for as long as I can. In order to do that, I got to go make money. So then I find out something I'm good at, something I can sell at a profit, so I can take my profits and go spend it on my family and vacations and trips and houses and the things that I want to give them. So I want that message to get out there. Don't listen, from my perspective, to this do what you love. I end all my podcasts with opportunities are everywhere. You got to go get them. If you want to start a flower shop, fine, good luck. You're trying to do something entrepreneurially that is very difficult to do. And if your head is down and you're like, oh, wait, I could sell that and my life would be a little bit easier if I was able to do that, and you miss it, the chances of you failing are going to go up exponentially. So don't fall for this do what you love BS. We are meant to leave caves, hit things over the head, and drag them back to make our families happy. That needs to be our mentality, I think.
100%. Wow. This is such an amazing podcast. And I think that hits, like, I believe that 100%. I've run multiple businesses. Never once have I made money doing what I like. It's like, I found this thing, it worked. I put my skills into pushing it, and then I just grinded until it got successful multiple times. I tell that to other people. Like, if you're chasing this idea of passion, you're going to do the thing that you love, forget about it. I think there's actually research. I was reading about this research that said that I think it's even like in the high 98% of people that follow passion fail. The people that follow their skills or use their skills are the ones that have success.
Yes, I agree with that. And so I appreciate you giving me a minute to say that, because I hate the messaging on the internet. 80+% of what I see relative to business's success is not correct on the internet. And this is the big one. Do what you love. But to answer your question, Jerry Brazie, go to the kronosgroup.org, Kronos, the kronosgroup.org. Kronos was the god of time. So it made sense to me, if I'm going to start a company like this dealing with entrepreneurs, none of us have enough of that. So the kronosgroup.org, and there is a button there that you can schedule a call with me. Now, if you're not a 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneur, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about whatever. You can schedule it right there. There's no credit card needed. I need your email and how I can get a hold of you. But beyond that, I'm happy to talk with anybody. If you're on the outside looking in and you're thinking about jumping and maybe starting a business, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I'll help you however I can. If you're going to college and you're like, Jerry, I'm really intimidated about what to do, I'm not sure how, call me up. I'm happy to help. Nothing will stop anybody except yourselves from going on that website, clicking that link, scheduling a time with me, and let's have a conversation. If you'd like to join a cohort, or at least have a conversation with me about the Kronos Group, let's do it. I hope people can tell that I'm here because I love business. I love the game of business. If I can help you and your business do better, whatever shape or form that takes, that's what I'm here for. I got a bunch of experience. I've made more mistakes than anyone out there can possibly imagine. So I got real tools that can help other people avoid those same mistakes. That's what I'm about. So the kronosgroup.org, just jump on there, schedule a call. Again, you don't need my permission to do it. Just go do it. You'll pop up on my calendar. We'll have a great conversation, either to get you in a cohort or to just talk to you about what you have going on.
Amazing. Jerry, it's been an honor and a privilege hanging out with you, learning some amazing, valuable stuff. I think we've gone some really good directions here today for the audience to consume. Your message is bang on. It's powerful. It's motivational. I think everybody should be in a key group to learn from each other. Like, this is amazing stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. We will put the links in the show notes below. You'll be able to find out more about Jerry and the Kronos Group. I highly recommend it. Have an amazing day. We'll talk again soon.